Hey everybody, this is Blue, and we're going to do another book review and trying to get all the RoleMaster companions finished. And we are up to the one I kind of dreaded to do, and that's RoleMaster Companion 6, the worst of them. I thought this was a terrible companion. You know, you heard my negative views on number 4. Whoa, this one's much worse. To tell you how bad it was. Many years ago, I had to give up role playing for a while, for a couple years, because of life, family, job, all that fun stuff. And so I put my books away, and I put this one at the bottom of a cardboard box, put it on the shelf, and tried to get life taken care of. Well, my area, we experienced a small flood. I got some water in the house, and I got it all cleaned up and all that, but I did not notice the water got to some boxes. RMC number 6 was at the very bottom of the box because it was the least used of the RoleMaster companions and RoleMaster books in general. And so when I decided that I had life under control again, I decided I was going to start role playing again, and I pulled everything out. And just imagine what a out of print paper book that was soaking in water for probably about 6 months, what it looked like when I pulled it out. Mildew got to it, the water damage and all that. It was brown. It was in terrible shape. It took me a whole minute to decide, should I keep it or throw it away? And I threw it away. Didn't bother me. Didn't try to replace it because at that time they were out of print. RoleMaster was, Iron Crown Enterprises was out of business and all that. Well, it wasn't up to recently when I decided that I was going to talk about RoleMaster that here on YouTube that I decided, I better try to find a copy. And I was looking, and I found the prices too much for what it's worth to me. On eBay, I was seeing it to be about $60. And on Amazon, there was one that was priced at $122. Not worth it. Absolutely was not worth it to me. And that's when I discovered RPG Marketplace or Drive-Thru, whatever it is. And they had them for sale. And I believe it was $10, $9.95 or $12.95, whatever. And so I bought the PDF. And that's when I also learned that I could have a PDF printed off. And as long as I wasn't trying to buy them in mass and selling them, I could do whatever I want with my one copy. And so I had PDF printing of it. This was the test on the PDF printing, and for $13 it saved me some money than buying the official product, paper product. And if it sucked, then I'm only out $13. So that's the only reason why I have the paper version now. So let's just get into having the fun. Here's the artwork. The cover isn't bad, but it was boring. Too many browns and grays. There was nothing that really stuck out that said wow. And so it was just like, cool, yeah. And so, the inside art, same quality that Ice puts into all its other companions. So, quality-wise, it was good. And there are some good images into it. But then there are some images, because of the theme of this damn thing, absolutely suck. So let's just start looking at it and get this over with. Yes, it's that bad. All right, so we can go look at the table of contents now, and you can see they do kind of have a lot to offer. It was kind of like number 4. They had in so many areas lots of little things in there, and then things that just kind of ticked me off. And it continues. They have spell lists kinda in here, and they royally suck. The introduction is what they have on everything, and here we're talking about some of the crappy artwork here. This is supposed to be a fantasy. Well, they're covering many genres in the role-playing game, and you have a combination of science fiction and fantasy, or science fantasy, kind of like how Star Wars is a science fantasy, but worse. Yes. We're going to start off with the option profession laws. How to handle professions. Okay, yeah. But number 2.2 there, Gothic fantasy professions, in which they are going through all the RoleMaster professions that they have up until now, and they are kind of telling you, hey, this profession will fit a Gothic fantasy pretty good. And, you know, so they are kind of going through them all. And, you know, if you are an experienced GM, this isn't going to help you much. If you're new to GMing and you're trying to build your own world, yes, this could be helpful. But this just kind of, ugh. And so they have their first profession there, and it's called the Romantic. It's a non-spell user who specializes in weapons and social skills. Kind of like a variant of a cavalier or duelist. Did not like that profession. Next profession is the Freethinker. This is another non-spell user who is like a scholar, specializes in learning, organizing, and disseminating knowledge. But unlike the scholar, the freethinker is somewhat discriminating in the knowledge they learn. Okay, there's another way to say this. Conspiracy theorist. This is somebody who thinks outside the box and comes up with a lot of stupid freaking ideas. And then we have the Seeker. In many Gothic fantasy campaigns, the skills and knowledge necessary for the production of magical items has been forgotten. The Seeker is a hybrid spell user who combines of mentalism and essence, and they are the people that are trying to rediscover magic. That profession sucks. The Creator. Oh, good damn it. The Creator is somebody that wants to create life. But since they can't really create life, they learn to adjust it, make modifications to it. Just picture Dr. Frankenstein. Okay? Like I said, most of these professions go into a Gothic fantasy, and so they suck. The next one up is the Cultist. The Cultist is basically your religious zealot. He has some spell lists. He does do some religious... Oops, let me turn to that page there. And, you know, he does some of the magic and all that, but he's kind of weird. Apparently, they have Deadly Dances, which is a dervish-based list. And so, that one seems kind of odd to me. And then another thing that makes this bad, if you count those spell lists, there's only 5. And in RoleMaster, they're supposed to have a base of 6. So you got to go find one more spell list to go for this numbnut. And so it sucks. Now we hit science fantasy. The hero. The hero is a basic fighter, armsman combination in science fantasy. So he has melee and science fiction weapons. Just kind of... I never made one. I never had the desire to make that profession. Next up is the no profession. And it just... Again, this is boring. Absolutely, hideously boring. Next profession is the Psi Mage. The Psi Mage has a combination of magical and scientific knowledge. While not a component of either area as a strict scientist or a strict spell user, a science mage can be a mainstay of academia in a science fantasy campaign. No. Now, Babylon 5 had technomages, if I remember their name correctly, and I thought that was cool. And in the world that I'm building, I have a technomage, where they are more into building mechanical, and they have some science, but they don't have electricity or gasoline. They are going to have a little bit of steampunk, and steam power is going to be their thing. They also are using a lot of springs and gears to build things. So I like that. And then we finally have the last of their professions. As you can see, the Power Master. Power Master is an unusual profession because it combines psionics with magic. Ugh. And so then you have to decide, well, is psionics a realm of magic, kind of like how mentalism is considered a realm of magic in RoleMaster, or is it's a separate entity? And then they are talking about available professions for a future chart, trying to limit what professions you can use or suggest you use in your game genre. And I just did not like that too well, because I believe that everybody should make their games, their own flair. And so if you don't want a profession, that's fine. If you do, that's fine. Your version of a genre should not follow somebody else's, cleanly. There should be some blurred lines and make it all yours unique. And so they continue. They also have professions according to culture. And so, which is fine. And then it does make some sense because some cultures might not have an interest in certain professions. So if you take a culture that is similar to how Christians are, because, Christianity has its own culture to it, they might look really down on necromancers for some odd reason. And so I understand that. Next, they have that chart right there, professions according to status. And so, your barbarian obviously is going to have a low status. The no profession, low status and all that. But other professions, you got to have a certain snobbiness to them. Like the noble warrior, which is a 7 in their little scale here. And, you know, if that works for you, that's great. But I also saw that they have the macabre, which is your twisted nobleman who works on illness and all that, listed as, you know, a 7. And glancing through here, cavalier, paladin, probably a cleric, are the level 8s. So I just, And so now we're going into arms laws. Second by second tactical combat. I tried this once and I didn't find it worthwhile. I thought that it slowed everything down. This is a multi-page here. And I didn't find it enjoyable. Too many charts, obviously. You know, this is RoleMaster. And then they were talking about that hex display. They talked about scale and movement for a hex display. Well, if you use a hex board, that's a hex display, okay? And there are some people out there who want to tell you that role-playing should just be theater of the mind. And I disagree with that, because we do need references, because, you know, well, how far away is that kobold and all that? And so if you got to figure out the range of your weapons, you know, is that kobold close enough for me to get with my short bow? Well, guess what? You need some points of reference. And so this could be helpful as well. Here we're going to start going into that small, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there. There, right there is a little bit more there, scaling. But then you got 4 different topics here. Armor combinations, it's just not too bad. Ignoring separate hand development. This is all about developing skills and with your weapons, okay? And it is not bad. It's nice little optional if you want to use it. Weapon size according to strength. So, you know, there's no way a fairy can, you know, yield a battle axe, a human-sized battle axe. And so that's what this whole chart is all about. So that's interesting. Damage based on weapon size. This is kind of a continuation of this. And, you know, it's talking about modifying your criticals and all that, because there's no way that a tiny battle axe, something that the fairy could handle, could ever really deliver an E critical to a full-sized human. And again, this is still more of the combat. So if you really like detailed combat, this is good for you. But if you are a newbie to game mastery, you might want to stay away from this for quite a while and do a lot of practice runs to see how well it works. One thing that I would suggest for everybody is the 3.11 martial arts and natural weapon fumbles. This will be important because it should happen. There should be times where, you know, an animal misses the clawing attack, and so that will help you on there. Again, more charts for you to use. There's some basic, easy critical charts for you to use if you want to. And then we have hit locations, which is good to have, because then you can, like on the first one for humanoid, if you roll a 99 to 100, you did a head strike, and so that should do more damage because they're showing right there it does a plus 20%. So this is pretty good. And then weapons charts with their fumble ranges right there. There is a fumble range in Arms Law that for each weapon on each page. We will be reviewing Arms Law very soon, and so we'll talk about that part in better detail then. Spell laws. This one's not too bad. And some of them are talking about some weird stuff about like spell resistance rules without levels. I think that levels are important because it talks about how much potential an attack has. Because, let's face it, a level 1 hobbit casting Firebolt is not as intimidating as a level 20 elf casting Firebolt. So levels are important. A few more things to look at there for their spell. Next up, they are going into the skills and stats. Luck and eloquence is something that's good to have to your game. And so it is something that if you want to add a little flair, because they always say hobbits are so damn lucky, maybe you can implement something like this into it. Uses of memory, there's a lot of options on that. There's a total of 5 options on memory. And size as a stat, yes. Size should be a stat because like your dragons, they're so big, it should be involved somehow in determining the hits that a dragon can take. You can say that size would be equal to constitution, and so that'd be a great way to do that. And so here's a lot more of, how to handle, special stats, bonuses. This can, again, be good, but if you are new to RoleMaster, being a game master, you might want to shun this for a few months before you try to implement it. All right, skill rank 0 bonuses. Now, in RoleMaster, if you do not have a skill rank in a skill, you automatically are at a negative 25. That is, so with that factor, it makes it very important that you try to have your PC have a skill rank or 2 in almost all skills so that they can be well-rounded. Because, you cannot always know what skills you're going to need in a campaign, and to then all of a sudden go, it's a negative 25 because he's never had to cook before. That's something to consider. Then they got a bunch of skill rank bonuses. Yeah. Like I said, they got a lot of little stuff in here. And then this chart right here, this is how you value a skill rank. Various charts which will show you the level, or I should say, the value of a skill rank if you develop it up to 100th level, which is what RoleMaster supposedly supports up to, unlike D&D, which only goes up to level 20. Universal roleplayed skill development. I read it once and thought that it was going to be not worth it, so I've never applied that, so I can't really say much about it. Construction research table, that is for spells, and that can slow you down. Again, we're doing a lot of small option rules here, and this is the optional character development, and they got the chart right there for you on how many experience points you need to get to the next level. You can compare that to the D20 and all the clones, and I think that the RoleMaster system is better. Next, this one part is interesting. This book, I think, is terrible, but it does have a few gems in it. Daily activity level experience point chart. Now, this is their way of where you can go and say that for the next week you're going to be in this village and you are going to be doing this level of work. You could say that they're having a light day, and thus you can award each PC going through this, according to them, 17 to 32 experience points. And so that has some merit. And so if you are wanting to do something like that, go for it. Development without levels, I disagree with that. I believe levels are important because I have a love for numbers and all that. I like levels and all these other little equations you have to come up with. There are a lot of interesting things that they put into here because they have a social status. It's not a game rule here, but this is a concept in how you structure your cultures in your world. And so this has the potential to help out a lot of new game masters. Okay, you can add traits and all that. Some of these are kind of weird. Some of them I would not put into my gaming system, but it does not mean that you should not put them in there. Because some of these would be great for background options, because like the very top right there, is vengeful, is very greedy. Those are some things that you can put into a PC or an NPC that you wanting to have, in an adventure to help guide the group. And now we are getting into campaign laws. We talk about social structure, and again, for me, this was not very helpful. I actually have studied history and taken college courses in history. And so they're just talking about the different levels of technology or social structure. And they're, in some ways, when they tell you to do this, I feel that they are limiting They even go into the science, and they're telling you a little bit about RoleMaster and Space Master. Space Master is the science fiction version of RoleMaster, obviously, and it's not too bad. I do have those modules as well, but right now I am kind of trying to concentrate on the fantasy realm of my game. Here's another piece of bad artwork as far as I am concerned. Because, you know, that is just too sci-fi in my fantasy book. RoleMaster and Shadow World. Now, for those of you who do not know, Shadow World was ICE's attempt to build their own gaming world. And they have a lot of modules and ready-to-runs campaign books for the Shadow World game. Some of them are good. The talk about the unlife in there is pretty awesome. But I want to warn you that those are also out of print and can be very expensive if you try to buy the books. If you're wanting to try some of those modules, ready to runs and all that, go to Drive-Thru, RPG Drive-Thru, and buy the PDFs for them. And this book came out when ICE had kind of an agreement with Hero Games, in which they were doing some of the modules where they had rules for both standard RoleMaster and the Hero system. And so you had information for both gaming systems in a book, and I thought it was a bad idea because, you know, it's taking up space for a system that you might not want to use. And so that is another thing that I just And so now we're talking a little bit more about genres. You know, they're trying to tell you what a high fantasy is, and I think that is something that we should know that automatically. Science fantasy, which is of course like your Star Wars, your historical fantasy, which is basically the alternative Earth, and where you can make some tweaks here, there, add more magic, and you can come up with a pretty good historical fantasy. Swords and sorcery, that's more of magic is everywhere, evil is powerful. It is not too darn bad. Gothic, fantasy, and horror, this is your Underdarks. You can do Lovecraft with this. It's not too darn bad, but it's not the best. Then we are talking about reputations of your PCs, and it can really affect the game, and it could be a very positive outlook. Again, if you are looking for something to add to make your game stand out, this is a possibility. Again, we're going back into a lot of small little things that they threw together. Now, body without soul, death due to concussion hits. I would like to keep that simple, and in my game, you know, once you're dead, you're dead. And you have so many rounds before the spirit leaves the body, unless you have somebody that is pretty good at magic and prevent that from happening. Poison and disease, attack resolution. I have actually made it where poison and disease are attacks, just like weapons. The only difference is your armor means absolutely nothing. So there's a lot of small things here, exhaustion, which is a good thing to have, because sometimes, you know, you got some characters that can't go 5 hours of combat non-stop. They would die, or should die, of pure physical exhaustion. And so this is a nice thing to have into the game. Attack levels for herbs. You know, some of these are actually healing herbs. And so how long does it take for an herb to enter the body and help get you healed? That's what this is about. And yes, I mean, good old RoleMaster, thank you for all the charts. And now we come to the thing that royally pissed me off the most. Spell lists. Now, I love spell lists, and I think that the more spell lists you have, the more variety you have, the better. Unfortunately, I believe that Iron Crown was just trying to fill space, so they went through spell law and they added 3 spells, and basically the same basic 3 fucking spells to every spell list. Okay, I say this because if you go through these spell lists, and they did quite a few of them, level 25, 125, which is a true spell. Like Blood Law here, you see Blood Law true. Alright, duration is 1 round per level. And you can go through most of these spell lists and you will see that they have that. What does that mean? Alright, for RoleMaster, a round lasts 10 seconds. And with that being a 125 level, okay, so that is 125 times 10 seconds, which is 1,250 seconds. And so you take that divided by 60, because, you know, there's 60 seconds in a minute, right? And so that is 200. And so then you got to take that divided by 60 again, and that is just over 3 hours. Okay, now it would be great, you know, if, you know, they could use Holy Bridge, but that, okay, not Holy Bridge. The dangerous thing is if you do some of these spells, for you can't really use them for that long. I mean, yes, it'd be great, you know, for nature's guises, you can hide for a long period of time, but they're saying that you get to cast a spell, any lower level spell on that list. And so then, like your evil cleric, disease. Okay. So for 3 hours, you get to cast any lower level spell that you want. That is, while that could be cool in some ways, just think about how unbalanced that is, and just, could you think of using that for that long? I find it weird. And so, as you can see, as I'm scrolling down here, there's a lot of these. They basically did the 3 same spell options for all of spell law to fill up space. And I'm talking a lot of space. This is frickin' irritating. Yes, there's more. Oh my gosh, now we're finally into mentalism. Yay. Yeah, we're still going. Oh my gosh, the unified skill system. Now, the unified skill system is basically, let me get on that page. Yep. Sometimes fingers don't want to cooperate. This is a new skill system. Is designed to keep RoleMaster's great variety of skills while decreasing the amount of actual bookkeeping required. Okay, which is kind of true. And they go into some great detail on this. This is also a highlight of this book. Hey, look, more crappy artwork. It can help you out a great deal. Ooh, more crappy artwork. And so the nice thing is they list a lot of skills that are in RoleMaster, and they define them. They try to tell you, what that particular skill is all about. And so it's in alphabetical order, so it could take some time to go through all of them. But this could help you with when you have somebody arguing, that this skill should be able to be used for this. You can read the definition of the skill and settle the argument. Man, don't you just love that terrible artwork? Some of these I can't picture being in a fantasy genre, but they have them. Because right there, Space Pilot. Yeah. And so, like I said, the nice thing about RoleMaster, with all these defined skills, you can really add some great detail to the PC. And then they have another combat environment activity tracking system. And when I show you, that's the graph for it. I'm going to tell you, I hated it. I tried to use it once. I found it to be very time consuming. So this is page 2. And there's another page, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages just for that. And so this would, I would consider to be adding too much and not getting enough out of it to justify it. Now we're going to the tables that they have in here. Some of this is good, and some of it is just, I don't think, worth it. Okay, here, what they're doing on these charts here is they are giving you the racial stats on animals, monsters, and alien races. So if you were wanting to role play one as a character, because that's the only reason you would have to use these. And so if somebody wanted to role play a wyvern. Well, there we go. Why don't we role play as a wyvern? And yes, somebody could, because wyverns are semi-intelligent. And so yeah, that would be cool. And they got some for the prehistorics and all that. And it could add to the game. You can make the animals in your gaming world far more intelligent than what modern society gives for animals. And they go all the way up to Creatures and Treasures 2. There's Creatures and Treasures 1 and 2. But then they also do the creatures and monsters that are in RMC 1 and RMC 5. So it's quite a list and all that. And so if you're wanting to do that, you can add animals into your world as characters. Just remember that although you're giving them the stats, it does not mean that you can have an otter develop skill in calligraphy. The next part, and again, this will help, but you're going to be having people fight over the book. And so if you use these charts, I would Xerox a couple copies so that you can pass them out to all of the players in your group. And so this is the alphabetical listing of all of the skills in the RoleMaster, in official RoleMaster. Okay? It's multiple pages. And so you can see how development points are spread out. Some, like the philosophy for a bard, is a 1-3, which means 1 development point for the first skill rank, 3 development points for the second. And you can only do 2 skill ranks per level. But then, if you go and you look at the next one, the no profession, yeah, whatever. But the barbarian, they're not going to be understanding philosophy, and so it's going to cost them 7 development points per level, and all they can do is develop 1 skill rank. So that's again how the RoleMaster system works. There's a lot of pages here because there's a lot of numbers, and so it is very good. All right, and so that's many pages of their unified system. And so it is something that you can use in your gaming system. All right, I don't know why that particular chart, these charts are off-sized here. All right, first one is vacuum. I have yet to find an attack where I could use this critical table, but it's nice to have it just in case. Earlier in the module, they were talking about construction. Well, here is your construction research table, and which, if you really suck, I mean, they have, what's 5% in a year's time, 5% 2 years' time, or you can go really fast, 100% in 1 round. Woohoo! And then we're going into one of those crappy checklists, which I do not use. And so that is all that's in RMC6. Like I said, for me, it sucked. but you know, every person's gaming world and gaming needs are different. And so that's why we do the review, to show you what's in there. And if you think it's worthwhile, like I said, RPG Drive-Thru does have it on sale, or non sale. They do sell it, and it's around $10. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and everybody please take care and be at peace.